But first, tonight at 6, we see those help wanted signs everywhere we turn right now. And we know that businesses are desperate for workers. Right now, in Maine, there are hundreds of people who want to work, but they can't.
They're asylum seekers. There are several hundreds of them in Maine right now, according to multiple organizations that help resettle them here. Chris Costa has been looking into the issue and joins us with more on this. Chris?
Brian and Amanda, according to the United Nations, asylum is a form of protection. It allows people to stay in the United States instead of being deported to a country where they fear persecution or harm. But those people must apply for asylum. If the federal government grants them that status, they get protection and the legal right to stay in the United States. But holding them back from actually working and even paying taxes is a federal government rule, one that Maine legislators on both sides of the aisle want to change.
Ça, c'est un numéro de USCIS, c'est la même chose.
Just not seeing his name on the schedule, but...
And they're doing the same thing that we would do if we were in their circumstances and they're trying to seek safety somewhere.
I like change my life.
Okay. Yes, thank you. This is for you.
This is Lorlette. We're not sharing her last name to protect her. She fled danger in her home country, the Democratic Republic of Congo, leaving family behind. Sue Roach works with immigrants like Lorlette.
You know, they've made impossible decisions, they've had to flee violence and persecution.
You're still waiting.
Lorlette is now legally living in Maine, granted asylum status. But for months, she had no legal way to earn a living.
C'est difficile parce que vous avez d'autres besoins que vous ne pouvez pas le faire à cause de manque d'argent.
That's all due to a federal law.
You feel frustrating, you feel sad.
Here's how it works. First, people must apply for asylum. Once the government receives that application, then asylum seekers can file another application for permission to work, called work authorization. Right now, federal law requires them to wait 180 days, 6 months, from filing for asylum before they can take the next step and file for work authorization. That 180-day clock doesn't start until the government receives the first application.
It was not easy. It's too long.
Well, it's a huge barrier because how do you get yourself on your feet? How do you find housing or food if you can't work?
This is your passport and your ID.
Another problem? The whole system is backlogged. U.S. Customs and Immigration Services is supposed to process the asylum application within 30 days, but it often takes much longer. The agency said in July that it is experiencing delays. Due to these delays, you may not receive a receipt notice in a timely manner after you properly file, the USCIS website says. And Maine's congressional delegation has noticed.
And we need a far better process for adjudicating these cases. It takes way too long.
So long that the USCIS tracks how much time it takes to process certain applications. It says 80% of work authorization cases can take 11 months, almost a year, to process. The agency declined to do an interview with us.
Does she have her passport with her? Tu as amené votre passeport?
Non, je n'ai pas de passeport.
That's why the organization Hope Acts holds workshops like these.
I think maybe the mistake was on the application.
To help people fill out that paperwork correctly the first time.
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever filled out like any type of government document, it's hard enough when you speak the language fluently. So it kind of, it makes you realize how challenging it is with the language barrier included, trying to figure out a complex document that also has pretty high stakes.
So I need you.
Even still, people trying to start new lives in the U.S. can end up waiting almost 2 years before they start making any money.
I can buy a car, I can save for my future education, but I cannot do it.
That's why Senator Susan Collins and Congresswoman Shelley Pingree had both introduced their own separate versions of legislation that would take the same action, chop that waiting period from 180 days down to 30. But those bills never made it to a vote.
The asylum seekers want to work. They don't want to be dependent. They want to provide for their families, and employers are desperate for more employees.
Many of the people who come here to seek asylum are highly skilled. can have all kinds of things that they could be doing in our state. And frankly, they want to pay their own bills.
To me, this just makes common sense.
And there's a domino effect. No work means no money. No money means they can't pay for a place to live. So they go on general assistance, and that money does not pay for all their needs.
But it certainly makes no sense that they are in a situation of dependency, which puts a great strain on municipal budgets to support them.
Some end up in homeless shelters. The latest data from the city of Portland show at least 24 people seeking asylum were in shelters as recently as November. That number got as high as 63 in August. City staff admit tracking this information is difficult, and Portland is the only city in Maine that runs its own shelters.
Some have traveled continents to come here. That's a person that can conquer anything.
Is it a relief to have that?
Yes.
Laurelette now has her work permit after 17 months in the U.S.
I felt peace, I felt free, I felt independent, I felt happiness inside me. I will do something for help people, for do something in the society, in the community, for help them, helping people, take care of people, work for the society, the new society. Because this society helped me a lot.
And we got an update after our interview with Laurelette. She is starting a new job next week. Now, spokespeople for both Congresswoman Shelley Pingree and Senator Susan Collins tell me that both those lawmakers plan to reintroduce some versions of those bills in the next session of Congress. But even if they were to pass, immigration experts here in Maine say there are not enough customs agents to process these applications as fast as they would come in. Brian?
Chris Costa with some great and important reporting tonight. Our thanks to you today.